What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at some of the most recent modifications that I've made to my iiRcade gold cabinet. Now, some of these modifications were inspired by a couple of those Sinden light gun games that just came out. But if you roll the clock all the way back to when I first got the cab, the first thing that I did was swap out those mono speakers for a set of two-way speakers. I thought it was a better way to take advantage of that JBL audio software that came equipped with the gold cabs. But moving on, now that we've got light gun games, you kind of have a problem. What do I do with, not my hands, but the light guns themselves? If you get these from Sinden, they come with really long cords, which I think is appropriate, but you know, if you're not using them, or what are you going to do with them? Where are they going to be stored? Where are you going to put them? You could just, I guess, roll them up and put them in a box and put them on a shelf somewhere, maybe throw them off to the side or put them on the ground, but that just didn't sit well with me, especially when, you know, we have an arcade in our homes that we're trying to, you know, we're trying to keep tidy, and some of these cords can kind of get in the way. Now, if you remember back when I did my T2 cord mod, the big thing was I didn't like these cords hanging down. It was sort of a safety issue when you really think about it, especially if you have young kids running into the arcade that could easily grab those and hurt themselves, or you know, rip the cords out of the machine and maybe even damage the guns. So the couple things I wanted to do was find a storage solution for the pistols, for the guns, and then also a little bit of cord management. Now, the first thing that I know I needed to do was find a way to store these guns when they weren't in use, and Sinden has an option for you. Now, whether you bought these from them or maybe you bought these secondhand from somebody on eBay, they are available on their website. You can go there, you can pick up one for 22 bucks, you can get a pair for 30. I have a pair of guns, so I got two. So once you have your holsters, how do you attach them to the side of the cabinet? Well, one way to do this is just with command strips. Now, they're a little bit too wide for the mounting surface on the holster, so I just took a pair of scissors and cut those in half, stuck that on the side of the cabinet. Now, where are you going to put this? I didn't want the guns, when stowed, to be sticking up above the control panel, and I also didn't want the holster to interfere with maybe me having to take the bar top off the riser. So I took my holster and actually put it directly in line level with the seam between the bar top and the riser. And that worked out perfect. When the gun is stowed, it does not stick up above the control panel. So that's what I did. For right now, we're just going to stick with the command strips, but we're going to come back to this in just a minute. Okay, next up is going to be cord management. You got these 50-foot long USB cables. What are you going to do with them? Well, I went to Amazon and I found a pair of remote control holders. These things are designed to attach to a wall next to your recliner. They're supposed to hold your TV remote and your cable remote, so I thought this would be perfect for holding just a rolled up coil of USB cable. Now, these things are black. They're made of thick plastic. They're made by a company called Total Mount. They're about 23 bucks for a pair, so not that bad. And they match the Sinden light gun holsters for the most part. They also come with a set of command strips, 3 in fact, so this should be plenty to hold all the weight we're going to be, you know, putting in these things. So I went ahead and attached the 3 command strips, and then I measured down about 4.5 inches below the bottom of the holster mount. This gave me plenty of room. I kind of tested this to make sure that it looked right, and 4.5 inches is where I'm going to go. Stick this on the side of the cabinet, and that part of the install is done. Okay, so after giving this a little more thought, I don't think the fact that I have one command strip cut in half holding these holsters to the cabinet is the best way to go. It's definitely not a long-term solution. So what I did is dug into my spare bolt bin and found actually some Arcade 1-Up screws. You know, the ones that hold the back panel to the back of the cabinet? I took 4 of those, stuck them in a cardboard box. I spray painted the heads black so that they would kind of blend in. And then I drilled a couple pilot holes, just 2, on the top of each holster. I think about a 1/16 of an inch pilot hole, and then I ran those screws in with a screwdriver. Okay, so with all that done, now it's time to address an issue I've had with this cabinet from the very beginning, and that is the control panel artwork, or the lack thereof. See, when you buy a black iiRcade, all the artwork is shipped loose and you have to attach it yourself. I don't know if that's some kind of a licensing deal with Double Dragon. I have no idea. But this is definitely something I'm just not a big fan of, just that black color with iiRcade in the corner. Just doesn't do it for me. So I went to Game On Graphics, and for 30 bucks, they sell an overlay that looks great, but there are just a few things you need to be aware of. The bottom row of buttons is labeled stock XYZ on your cabinet, but with this overlay, those bottom buttons are labeled DEF, so it's just something, you know, you kind of want to be aware of. Also, you're going to have to take all the buttons off your control panel to install this. The way I figured that out was you sort of remove one of those punch outs. You know, the holes are knocked out for each button, which is great. You know, you just pull those off. And I held that over one of the buttons, one of the stock Sanwas, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. It was actually smaller than the button. So you're gonna have to flip this thing over, and you're gonna have to pull all the wires off one at a time. But be careful before you even get started removing wires. Make a roadmap, make a legend, draw the circles out on a piece of paper, and label all the wires that you're taking off. Now, bear in mind, black wires are going to be attached to every button. That's just the ground. Just take note of the wire that's a specific color for that button. And before you go ripping these things out in frustration, because you know, if you might be frustrated just a little bit, the way that I found to kind of get these stake-on, crimp-on fittings off the posts is that I grab those with a pair of needle nose pliers, and I actually use my finger as like the fulcrum to pull those off. And it's something you can do. It's a controlled motion, and it doesn't really, you know, the chance you're going to take of destroying the button is reduced somewhat with this method, but it can kind of hurt your finger. And with all the buttons removed, it's time for me to address one more issue I have with this cabinet. I don't think that the red buttons quite match all the orange highlights of the graphics on this cabinet. So we're going to go ahead and swap these out. I got a set of 10 because we've got to replace the 6 buttons. And then, of course, those menu buttons on top. A set of 10 Sanwas that I got from ParadiseArcadeShop.com. Got these for $26.50 before shipping. These are not going to fit 100%. Now, they are the 30 millimeters, so they fit, you know, the diameter is fine, but they don't quite clip into that thick wood. You can go with a different style, but this was the color that I wanted, and, you know, once you have them installed, they're not going to really move around. But removing them will be a little bit easier. And after reassembling the control panel and putting it back in the cabinet, I step back and look at this thing, and I'm really happy with the end result. The graphic on top looks really good. It feels better than that slick plastic top. The holsters and the cord management, it's all shiny, glossy black, so it looks like it was meant to be there from the very beginning. The fact that the guns are black, they don't clash. You know, maybe I should have gone with the red and blue for player 1 and player 2, but for me, it just really completes the look. I love the way this cabinet looks. About $130 to do all the stuff that I did today. Not really that bad, not the end of the world. Of course, you got to have the Sinden light guns, and of course, you have to have an iiRcade Gold if you don't have one. Why are you watching this video? And it's also worth noting that this modification will add about 2 inches of width on either side of the cabinet. So if you've got a tight setup at home, it is something that you need to be aware of. And if you're interested in any of the things that I used in this video, I'm going to have links for them down in the description below. Hey, thank you so much for stopping by and checking out the channel. Y'all have a blessed day, and I will see you next time.